Hey guys, Bridget here. In this video we're going to continue our design system by creating some side menus using variants. Now you can follow along just this tutorial, but if you're interested in the previous videos in which we're creating this design system from scratch, feel free to check out the playlist. Now that being said, let's get started with the side menus. So the very first thing is I'm going to add here a title. And in order to create a side menu, what I usually like to do is to have a reference point, and that is going to be in the form of a frame. So essentially 1440 pixels of width would be a good enough indication or frame for actually creating a side menu for a real app. And by doing that, I'm just going to start adding the rectangle just to have like a reference of what the side menu could actually look like in real life, so that I'm not just building stuff up from scratch without any point of reference really. So let's get started, and what we're gonna do for the first side menu is we're going to have actually, other than the stroke, let's create a version with the primary blue. So that's gonna be this one right here. And what we're gonna do as a start is we're going to start adding the main logo icon. And for the icons, since we already have some icons in our design system, we're simply going to go over here, and we're going to have a look around and try to find an icon which could work well in this context. So I'm going to go with this one right here, go back onto UI components, bring it up here, and make it just a little bit bigger so it's more visible, and make it white. All right, so far so good. Also going to go ahead and grab a text style, probably going to change some things up since this one is going to be a logo. So just going to duplicate the text style, and for this one, which we're going to use in just a minute, we're going to go with the regular bold. And let's go ahead and let's add either a logo or just a search feature. Actually, let's just go ahead and keep it nice and tidy, and we're going to simply have a search on the top. So let's go over here, let's write search. I'm going to drag and drop this icon, make it white over here, and boom, we have our basic search. Probably going to make it a bit less visible, so 70% opacity, that would do the trick. And now what we're gonna do is we're simply going to add a few different icons. So probably we just want to go over here, grab a few icons, and I'm going to put them right here just to kind of like visually see them as we are entering more of these icons. And what else could be appropriate for a app of this kind? So this is basically what we are thinking of as we are adding more and more icons, and just going to come up with a few different names and elements which could work well in this specific case. All right, so far so good. And I think with these icons we're going to have quite a bit of elements and options in our design system. So let's go back over here, and what we're gonna do is we're essentially going to center these and make white, bring it right over here, and let's make these just a little bit smaller, and we're going to distribute vertical spacing, 70% opacity, And we have our basic menu items. Actually, one thing that I want to do is, well, first of all, I'm going to lock this up, and we're going to essentially distribute these. We're also going to make them a little bit smaller so that they don't really take as much visual emphasis as they were taking a moment ago. So, all right, we have our basic basic side menu right here. Let's duplicate this just a few times. I'm going to write here commerce. It's going to be history. This one is going to be FAQ section. This one's going to be connections, likes, calendar, and analytics page. All right, so here's our base going on, and what we're gonna do is I'm probably going to just make it a little bit less wide, and here we go. So far so good in my opinion, and we're definitely heading towards the right direction. All right, so far we're doing some nice progress, and also going to add a rectangle right here. Let's bring it back, and let's center it. As you can see, I'm going to add some roundedness to this, and let's make it 14 in opacity. And what we're gonna do next is we're going to add maybe just a few more icons. Let's go over here. Let's see if we can find something which could be interesting to kind of like add to visually. Maybe some of these. This icon, and let's also add one more. This one we're actually going to use it like this for the logout section, and let's probably add one more, like an archive. This is going to make sense in just a moment. And let's just go over here. Let's center these, and let's make them white. Bring it right here. And what we're gonna do now is to use the rulers in order to check that we're using the same width for the icons, and that the style, so that the style is going to be consistent. So this one is almost there, a little bit bigger. This one just a little bit smaller. This one just a little bit smaller. And this one here is almost perfect. All right. So another thing that we're gonna do is we're going to mimic the distance between one another, and an easy way is just to put them like side by side. 70%. Bring it down here, and 70%. All right. So far, so good. And we're ready to add some more menu items. So this one's going to be the first one. I'm going to have the logout section. And let's bring it right to the bottom. Now let's remove the rulers. Simply clicking here. You can also just adapt it directly from the top. All right, so far so good. Now another thing that we're gonna add is a avatar which shows and indicates who is the user that is currently using this app. So let's go on Content Reel, which is my #1 source for finding avatars. Let's find an avatar which is going to just visually, color-wise, composition-wise work well with this palette. So something cleaner. This one could work pretty well. I mean, all of these are pretty good overall. Maybe you can go. So for example, this one is a little bit too small, the composition of the image. So I'm probably going to go with something lighter, like this one right here. So let's write here a random name. And let's duplicate and also write here the row. And I think we are good to go when it comes to this basic composition. Let's make it not bold like this, but using this one. And then we're also going to add a separation between this logout section and the main section where the user is located, just so that it's going to be easier to basically differentiate it visually, especially if you have a lot of other elements. Now, one thing that I'm noticing is that this side menu is a little bit too tall. So what I'm gonna do now is just shrink the height of the side menu, and yeah, that will do. All right, so let's basically change let's just unlock all of this, and I'm going to clean up this just a little bit. Oops, creating we're going to create a few variations of this side menu. So we have the search. This one's going to be grouped in top. Then here we're going to have the analytics. Then I'm going to actually let me just lock it for one more moment. And I think I grouped this one right here. All right, let's just group all of these guys, and then we're essentially going to have everything organized in a nice way. Let's go ahead and let's simply rename all of these so that they're clear and easy to navigate in the layers panel. And this one wasn't grouped. Oh, actually, we need to change this one. So emails, archive, and add a new. All right. So let's go over here. Emails, user, and here we go. All right, I'm going to use the rename tool. Just yeah, and basically we are pretty much set. What is this one? Logout. All right. So It's going to be background. Now we have everything organized. Now we're going to create variations of this side menu, and then we're going to turn this into variants. And actually, let's just do that right now for the sake of conveniency. Let's just select all of this and let's group it together. Let's bring it outside. We don't need this desktop one anymore, and name this to side menu. And I'm going to make this a component and add it as a variant. So now we have the side menu section available. I'm going to bring it here as the second variant. And now what we're going to do is we're essentially going to get rid of all the text in this instance right here. Make all of this stuff just be more centralized, and to bring this guy to the center, we make it just a little bit smaller. Usually for these details you also want to contact the developers and like have a discussion with them regarding this stuff. I mean, I talk with the developers pretty much all day, every day. So yeah, even things like, you know, let's move the search maybe at the bottom for this responsive version. You know, things like that can be really useful to discuss up front. So 74. And here we go. All right. So far, so good. And let's go and let's add. Let's try and center all of this just to be sure that everything is clear. And yeah, I think we're pretty much set. We have our variation of the side menu. Now let's go ahead and let's duplicate this. Okay, I'm just going to use the plus in this case just to make it easier. And now I'm going to create a version which is going to be the white version. So let's go ahead. Let's use the same color as we have right here. And let's do the same also for the main icons. And what we're gonna do is we're going to use dark text color, or actually we can simply use the ones in our design system as we already built it up. This one we're going to use this blue. All right. And same when it comes to this style right here. All right, let's just make it white. And here we have our side menu. So in this case we're going to just make it lighter, and let's change also the color of these icons right here, since they're a little bit too dark in my opinion. So just want to make it a little bit lighter. Maybe something around these lines could work much better. All right, so far so good. Now let's let's do the same when it comes to this guy right here. I'm going to grab it, bring it here. Let's grab all of these. Make it light. This one, I'm going to copy the style right here. And same for these elements. All right. I think I went a little bit too light with these icons. Oh, it wasn't really exactly that tint. Yep. Okay. We got it. And now what we're gonna do is we're going to start adding the properties to this. So first property is going to be, well, essentially the type of menu, if it's the blue, or actually let's make it the color. Then secondarily it's going to be the type, so if it's expanded or contracted, really. So contracted here in the variable. So essentially what we're saying to Figma is that we're going to have these two properties. The first one is the color, so is it blue or is it white? And we set it up by simply saying in the layers panel, color equal blue. This is going to set the first property, then comma, and then the second property is type, which is this one right here, either contracted or expanded. So you can see that we're going to afterwards have these nice drop downs. So let's do the same also over here. Color, in this case, is going to be white, and the type is expanded. And let's rename this one to color white and type contracted. All right, so far so good. Let's bring it here so that it's easy to basically organize all this. And one thing that we're gonna do now is just double check if this is working. So I have this frame right here, which is kind of like a test frame. I wouldn't even know how to really like call it. Just going to slightly change the color. Going to get rid of all these, go to assets. As you can see, under our UI components, we have the side menu. You can simply drag and drop it. Now, of course, this frame is too small to contain it all, so I'm just going to basically enlarge it. And as you can see, I can now decide between the blue and the white version, and if it's contracted or expanded in both cases and scenarios. So hope this video was helpful, and I want to remind you that this is part of a series in which we're creating a design system from scratch, and there's definitely more to come. And I also recently launched a free course on how to get started in UI UX design. And on my YouTube channel you can find over 500 videos sharing my experience of over a decade working in UI UX. So feel free to check it out, and I'll see you in the next video.